Hey y'all, welcome to Soccer for Us. On this episode, we are looking back at the November World Cup qualifying window for the USMNT and all of CONCACAF, really. And to do that with me, I'm bringing back on to the podcast Andrew Buccellato, who is coming back to kind of wrap up what his thoughts were before and now to kind of expand on those and I guess take stock of them now that we have finished 2 matches. We are officially halfway, actually more than halfway through the octagonal. Andrew, thanks for joining me again. How you doing? How you feeling right now?
I appreciate you having me back on. Things are pretty good right now. I mean, I guess in terms of the U.S. national team, we're hanging in there, and we're hopefully can get 9 points next window and put this thing to bed. So,
I mean, that's kind of, I think, where I ultimately stand about this entire window is 4 points out of this window was the bare minimum. That is, quote, on schedule if you're trying to win at home and draw on the road. The problem with this window was none of the other results went our way. Panama coming from behind in the second half twice. Even Mexico losing to Canada up in Canada. That wasn't something we wanted. Nothing outside of our individual results kind of worked in our favor. So we now have a jumbled mess at the top of the octagonal standings. Real quick, we'll run through those so that we all know where we are as we stand now. Canada is on top at 16 points. United States in second on 15. Mexico in third on 14. Panama in fourth, also on 14 points, but the goal differential not in their favor. Costa Rica on 9 points. Jamaica on 7 points. El Salvador on 6 points. And Honduras all the way at the bottom on 3 points. So that's where we stand. It has been a little bit up and down, and I feel like this window mirrored the rest of the qualifying campaign, where it was like had a really good performance, had a really bad performance. What were your overall thoughts from this November performance and matches from the U.S.?
I mean, honestly, anytime you get a dose of Cero, it's reason to celebrate.
Yes.
My only problem is for the life of me, I cannot figure out why in the world this team cannot put back-to-back halves together on the road. I mean, in Jamaica, this time it was even more frustrating because you're looking at it in the first 10 minutes, it's like, all right, this thing's on cruise control. We got this.
Yep.
Way it gets the goal. And then it's like, suddenly everyone forgot how to play soccer. And you're like, you guys are professionals. What just happened here? So, I mean, it's, I don't know. My biggest fear coming into this World Cup cycle was that, we're going to end up back in 2017, that, you're playing the last match day. You don't know what's going on. And like, if you win that Jamaican match versus drawing it, puts a completely different perspective on things, because the next window, you very well could get 9 points. And if my math is correct, if we had beaten Jamaica and you took all 9 points, you were insured a minimum of the playoff. And if you took 1 point
that
in
would
the
have
next
been
window,
that would have been safe, pretty much.
right. And if you took 1 point in the next window, you're through. And then at that point, okay, you could start rolling some of the younger names that people wanted. It's a different perspective. But I mean, overall, let's put it this way. You got a dose of Cero against Mexico. Mexico went and lost to Canada. You have a situation now where the US does control its own destiny at this point. And I think that's a good position to be in. It seems like we have the players that want that pressure on them now, and they want that understanding that they can go through and they can make this happen on their own.
Yeah, I think it's understandable why fans are concerned right now, because there is a jumbled mess at the top of the octagonal standings. But to your point, there are results that we could have had, but that would have also been winning 5 matches in a row, 6 matches in a row.
Right.
That's tough to do in any qualifying campaign. Now we haven't lost in 3. We've only lost 1 this entire qualifying campaign. Canada, yes, they're undefeated, but they haven't been perfect. They've struggled on the road too, and 4 of their last 6 matches are on the road. So I think that there are points for the U.S. to pick up as we go along, and we have a match against all 3 of Canada, Mexico, and Panama. 2 of those on the road. That'll be tough, but with Panama at home and 2 very, very winnable games at home in January, I'm okay with where we sit right now, because I think that we can, if we continue on this pace, I'm not concerned about making the World Cup, but I understand that it's not going to be safe. It's not going to be easy, and we're probably going to be concerned about it up until the final match, which is in Costa Rica, which I don't love.
Yeah, and that's what my fear is, Costa Rica is that one team that always seems to have a
We've never
jinx or
won
have
there.
yeah, and they always have something over us that it's always
Yep.
funny that you never know what's going to happen, but something
Yep.
always goes wrong against Costa Rica. But I mean, let's also be real. I mean, the U.S. has also shown now I think Berhalter has finally settled on his 11. I think you're starting to see a little bit more consistency coming through, and for the lack of um, for the lack of what's the word I'm looking for? Consistency between the matches. I think that's something that I think the players are going to try and handle a little better next time. But like you said, we're in a very good position right now. We control our destiny. We don't need results from other people. As long as we take care of business and we beat the teams that we need to beat, then I think we should be through. Hopefully, it'll be
Yeah.
sooner rather than later.
And that's kind of where we are. I agree with you, though. I appreciate the one positive from this window, I think, is that Berhalter pretty much kept the same starting 11.
Yes.
Obviously, he had to make changes based on who was available due to red card suspension. But I
Ugh.
think we can definitely say that he, hopefully, I think, but looking at these two matches, you see that he has picked his kind of top 15 players, which is really what you need in a qualifying campaign, because outside of that, it's a crapshoot if they're going to perform on any given day. But I think we have our top 15 players, the ones that you can rely on. You may have to go to your bench for a couple others, and I think the U.S. still has good talent at, if you're looking at a match day squad where you have 11 guys and 5 subbing in, all 16 of those that I think you would have to play in a game are going to be okay enough to get the job done, especially in CONCACAF.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, also the other thing is we don't have Rania back yet, and I think they're
Right.
saying he's going to be back in. I think what Claudio said, it was 2 to 3 weeks is the estimate return for him.
I think we're hoping we'll have him back for January. And reminder that is not the beginning of January. Those games are January 27th, 30th, and then February 2nd. So it is late January. He has had
Right.
plenty of time to hopefully heal. He's 18, so hopefully that also helps. But I'm with you. Like, if we get Gio Reyna back, I don't know if this isn't a hot take, but I'm not saying he's like an automatic starter, because one, I don't think that's true right now. But that is another piece of like, okay, if you start Reyna, great. You have Weah coming off the bench. If you choose to start Weah, you have Reyna coming off the bench. Maybe you can bench Aronson and bring him in off the bench. We're not relying on guys like Paul Arriola to have to come in and change a game, because they're not game changers.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I mean, I think at this point, I think Wayne and Pulisic are locked on the wings. I mean, seeing what Wayne did this window, that's very hard to drop him. I mean, what the great thing about like what you're just saying is even if you assume that Way and Pulisic are locked, that means let's say you start Musa in the middle. Okay, Musa's not having the best game. Well, you bring on Reyna. Well, Reyna is an entirely different beast, an entirely different player.
Right.
Now teams are going to have to completely shift their tactics because now instead of having a physical guy that's going to dribble at you, you suddenly have another 8 that can pinpoint a pass diagonally on 2 touches in the middle of a turn where you're like, okay, now it's defenses have to pay a lot more attention. So, and Aronson, he's just sneaky. I mean, there's something about him when that boy gets the ball, you can't get it off of him, and man, that guy can find a pass. So, it's going to be fun. I mean, it's what do they call it? The oh my god, an embarrassment of riches,
Yeah,
where we have so many different
we
choices
do.
that now for once teams are going to have to say, okay, they're bringing in this guy, we have to change our strategy based on that. So it's going to be fun to see how Berhalter uses that to his advantage to really keep other managers guessing, trying to figure out, okay, which 11 is he going to go with? Okay, and if he doesn't go with that, what is he going to do in the game that's going to change it then?
Yeah, I think that's definitely, if we have him back for the Canada match and we have Pulisic at full health and we, don't have any other major injuries, knock on wood.
Oh God,
I
please
think that
no.
I still think we have a better available selection than Canada does. And I know Canada has played really well, but anyway, let's talk
Oh,
about this Mexico game though, because you
yes.
mentioned the Dos a Zero, you mentioned all of the embarrassment of riches we have. And I think that's where the problem that Mexico is having right now is they have talent. That talent is old and not very deep.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you made an interesting comment about Sebastian Leggett last time that we were talking about. And as that game went on, I think 12 had even said it during it that, Berhalter had a pretty specific game plan. It was survive the beginning when you knew Mexico was going to come at you, full
Mm,
throttle, don't give up a goal. And, Zach Steffen came up monster on that one breakthrough that absolutely you could tell that rejuvenated the US. But as that game wore on, man, you could tell the legs just started going on some of those central middies in Mexico. I mean, Musa and McKinney and Adams. I mean, they were just running through people. And I mean, it's interesting to note. I don't know if this is just an anomaly, but every time that Tyler Adams is on the field, Mexico has not beaten the U.S. And I don't know if that's just the way that Tyler Adams plays, that he takes out Hector Herrera. He doesn't leave as much space for that striker up top. But the U.S. found a way to absolutely make Mexico's life awful for probably, I would say, 70 minutes of those 90 minutes. And it really paid off, that slow burn of just wearing down their legs. It worked off like a charm.
Well, I think you kind of hit on it a little bit with Tyler Adams, and that he is, and I think all of our midfielders are this way. They're mobile. They are smart at ball recovery, but once they get the ball, they actually know what to do with it. And Tyler did not have a great game passing against Mexico. I'll say that. And that wasn't because Mexico did anything. He just made some really bad passes. But on the whole, especially in that match, you had McKinney, Musa, and Adams, all three guys who love to win back a ball and love to then turn forward and drive, be it with a pass or dribbling. So I think that's something that Mexico just didn't have an answer for, is when we could recover a ball and quickly start an attack. That was not just kick it long, which is how it has been a lot of times for the United States. It was a very direct and an intentional break forward, and not just, okay, let's put it long and hope someone runs onto it.
Well, like a perfect example of that is when Musa absolutely froze Edison Alvarez in the middle. That's oh my God, that step over scissor, like you saw it happen. Everyone was just like, you could collectively hear the ooh. Yes. But it was just, I mean, you could tell that Mexico was like, all right, we got them pressed, we got their backs, they don't know where to go, and then you just take that,
slipped through.
It was just gone. And I mean, the other interesting thing about this that I didn't bring up earlier that I should have was the influence that Christian Pulisic has. Even when he is not healthy, the minute he stepped on the field, it was as if the U.S. found another gear and was given an injection of adrenaline. You could just tell immediately when he came on, a goal was imminent. Even if he didn't score it, it was going to come quick, because Mexico immediately went from pressing to, whoa, we need to step back and see what's going on, where he's going to go. And that changed things pretty big for me.
Yeah, the respect he commands when he's on the field is pretty big. And as you mentioned, he didn't start. Our starting 11 was Zach Steffen in goal. The center back pairing was Walker Zimmerman and Miles Robinson, who I thought both of them were pretty darn good, despite Robinson picking up a red card, which was whatever. Right back,
that second yellow was
it was. We'll talk about it. DeAndre Yedlin at your right back. Left back was Anthony Robinson. Your midfield, we mentioned it, Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa. And up top, you had from left to right, Brendan Aronson, Ricardo Pepi, and Tim Weah. This was the Tim Weah coming out party. That. I mean, I think we saw it against both Jamaica the first time, and then Costa Rica in the last window. But he had a fantastic window for the most part, and this game especially was fantastic. I thought that he and Musa were by far the two best players we had on the field, which is weird, because then Weston McKennie was also just like running around doing Weston McKennie things. And I think that, again, Mexico just didn't have an answer for the amount of talent and the youthful talent we had on the field. And they were you could tell they were frustrated.
No, I would agree. I think also what's great about this U.S. men's national team is, usually in the past, everything was, all right, give the ball to Pulisic, and everyone figured out, all right, well, hack Pulisic. Right. The U.S. isn't going to score from every set piece. Okay, well, now what do you do when you have Musa driving the middle, you have Weah down the right, and you have Pulisic going down the left? You now have three legitimate avenues of attack that people actually have to respect. And if you go too far to one side, okay, we're going to beat you clearly from the other side. So now it offers a different dynamic that is, right. I would personally say in my lifetime, I don't think I've ever had a U.S. men's national team that can attack you from three different points. And
we barely had one that could attack from one.
But yeah. I mean, you had Dempsey, and then maybe Donovan if he felt like he was engaging in that game. I mean, like, now you have a three-pronged attack that can really get at you, and if you make a mistake, you will get punished.
Well, and I think that, again, is where Mexico struggled, because they and to Mexico's credit, they were able to launch attacks fairly frequently. They weren't very effective. They had a couple in the first half that did get by us, but that was more because we were playing such a high line to press them so high, and that really wore them out, because they weren't really able to. the word I'm trying to, or the example I'm trying to find is it's not that they weren't able to run with us, right? Because I don't think it was that they were like dead tired. I just think that eventually they were unable to make an adjustment quickly, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is you have the US has a very big athletic edge over Mexico.
Always has.
Mexico, Mexico, I think it's still fair to say Mexico technically on the ball is still better than the
Oh my
US.
goodness, we
We're
saw that
definitely
multiple times.
and I mean, yeah, but you can see the gap is closing. But I mean,
Mhm.
that's a little bit of the US is playing 18-year-olds and 21-year-olds versus somebody that's 25, 26 that's used to this.
30. Yeah.
Well, all right, yeah, I was trying to be generous. Let's call it what it is. But I mean, the other thing is this is when what happened was that athleticism. When you have Zimmerman in the back, you have Robinson in the back, you have Wea Adams, excuse me, you have McKinney, Adams, and Musa running in the middle. At some point, the midfield gets choked, and there was like I was actually kind of surprised. I'm sitting here thinking, oh crap, Mexico's got Raul Jimenez back. I mean, he's been doing well in the EPL. Like he's going to do something that this is going to make things a little contentious. But I was surprised by the fact that our athleticism was able to really handle their technical ability and almost reduce it down to okay, well, we received the ball. They weren't able to make those. I would say almost of characteristic line breaking passes that Mexico makes. That you see it happen. You're like, oh crap, here we go. I mean, they got two away where there was kind of a weird thing where I think it was Zimmerman that headed the ball. It wasn't really cleared right.
Right.
And then it got the quick diagonal to was it Ticketia Corona with that one? No.
That may have been Chucky.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that
he
one was
missed that
Chucky.
one-on-one with Stefan. And then there was the other just, it was kind of about like a 20-yard shot where it was like you kind of held your breath for a second. But, I think that athleticism really does change things because, with the pace that Mexico can play, suddenly, you play that through ball. Okay, Miles Robinson can run it down now.
Yeah.
It's
Walker Zimmerman too. I mean, both Miles and Walker were able to recover on a lot of those balls that Mexico thought they were going to get to. I remember, I think in the first 5 minutes, Zimmerman was able to recover, and no, it was Robinson able to recover and take a ball off of I think Raul Jimenez. Yes. Zimmerman had one of a recovery, and I think even to an extent DeAndre Yedlin on that save that you mentioned that Stefan had down to his left. Yedlin was at least able to recover enough to force Chucky wide of the goal, so that it wasn't like a wide open, like I'm in the middle of the goal.
Yeah, it changed his angle because the way that he came in.
Right. And so I think defensively, we actually, we had to recover. Again, we were playing a higher line. So the goal was to try to compress the space that they had to play in, which meant that you had a lot of space behind you. But everyone did a really good job of recovery defense. And I thought that was really what assured us that we could play up top as kind of fluidly and I don't want to say carelessly, but as recklessly maybe is a better word. We were able to do it without worrying about, oh God, I can't get the ball away because we're going to, get hit from behind. It was nice to have that safety net behind us.
Yeah, and I think that was the other thing. That's the big difference of this U.S. national team is that you can tell the front three has license to just run at people. There isn't hey, let's slow this thing down. Let's wait until we get the numbers up and kind of build the attack. It's if you get a shot to go one-on-one, go at someone because we have the skill to do it and we have the speed to do it. So,
right.
I think that's a big consideration.
Yeah, and I think that we were, again, I think athletically we just outmatched them and were able to run all over the place, and they weren't.
Sure.
Want to run through the stats real quick because I think it's important, or at least the timeline of things. So 0-0 at the half. Second half begins. It was weird because I felt like Mexico was growing a little bit more control because I think maybe we were tiring a little bit or we were not as quick with our movement. And then we had that big blow up where it was a couple of them. There was one where Musa got into it on our sideline or on the sideline right next in front of Mexico's bench. We had the one where Chuck Rodriguez decided to try to decapitate Brendan Aronson, and somehow we got 2 yellow cards out of that, and they stayed on the field. But I think it became Mexico was trying to be the bully, and it didn't really work for them because they didn't realize that we have guys who aren't afraid and are not really going to take that crap from them. And then Christian Pulisic comes on in the 69th minute. And that it was a minute after this Brendan Aronson thing happened, right? And so Aronson goes off, and it was like, okay, bud, like tag you out, let's tag someone in who has a little bit more experience in these U.S. Mexico games. And I agree, you could see an immediate like pause from Mexico of like, what are we doing here? Because Puli does command that respect. And 4 minutes later, we have Pulisic heading the ball into the back of the net. I think this was a good example of our ability to nick a ball and go forward without having to be, not playing a long ball. It was a well-built, direct passage of play off of a turnover. And it ends with, it really is all because Tim Weah is fantastic and beats. I forget who he beat on that side, but he got just enough of space to be able to cross a ball right onto Puli's head. And he wasn't wide open, but he had made this run from the backside, and no one really marked him until the very end. And it was a very easy finish past Memo Ochoa, who is by far the worst goalkeeper in all of CONCACAF.
Yeah. Well, hey, yeah, look in the mirror, man. You apparently got somebody to grow into now. No, it was it Jose Gallardo? Was that his?
It may have been Gallardo.
Yeah, Jesus Gallardo. That's who it was. Weah definitely froze him, and then just went right around him like he was just a practice dummy on the field. But I mean,
yep.
It's like the funny thing is I equate what Mexico did is to poking a bear. You think that you can do this, you think you can do that. They poked the bear, and then they suddenly realized, what did we just do? And you and I talked about this before. The other interesting thing about this game was, we had predicted that, Turner would get the start because, you're thinking a lot of shots, this. Stefan flat out just killed that goalkeeper controversy.
Stefan had a great game. And this was a game where actually having his distribution from the back, it wasn't his distribution necessarily, because I still don't think his distribution is as good as some people want it to be, but it was his calmness on the ball. Yeah, it was his calmness on the ball and presence on the ball, because Turner is always a little like hectic on the ball. Stefan calmer. For sure.
Well, but the other thing is, it's not just on the ball. Turner, his presence in the box, he has a very calming presence on this back line, where you can tell that even if somebody doesn't, I think
Turner does too.
But I mean, all right. But I mean, you can tell that there are times that Turner does things where you can tell the defenders are looking back to try and figure out what he's doing. And there have been a couple times this window where he should have claimed the ball and he waited, and defenders were waiting for him to claim the ball, and weird things happen. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's gotten a lot better at that. Stefan still sometimes does that, and we'll talk about it in the Jamaica game where he tries to come claim balls and it doesn't really work out for him. So yeah, I just thought that this game was a great game by Zach Steffen. I like fantastic.
Yes.
We make a couple more subs, so Mexico has to start making subs, and you can just tell that like you go from Jesus Corona, right, Tecatito, to Roberto Alvarado. That's just not the same dude, right? Luis Romo and comes off. Carlos Rodriguez comes on. Romo was brought in to be a little bit more of a young, mobile midfielder. Didn't really work. We make some moves. Kellen Acosta comes on for Yunus Musa, and Jesus Ferreira comes on for Ricardo Pepi. And I actually liked that move from Bob. I'm not a huge fan of Ricardo Pepi at the 9. I think he's still better as a midfielder going forward and combining with attackers. But what he did was basically allow for Weston McKennie's goal to be scored, because he and Weston were able to play that 1-2 kind of combination at the top of the box. It somehow deflected to Weston, and he buries it into the side netting, and Memo Ochoa's looking at 2 goals going past him again in his life, which is always great. He needs to be reminded that Dos Cero. So I think that the Ferreira sub actually, I'm not saying Pepi doesn't combine that way, but I just think that Ferreira is always looking for that and is definitely more technically able to do that, especially in tight spaces. And he and Weston McKennie being able to combine created that second goal out of not necessarily nothing, but it was definitely like we were in the, okay, batten down the hatches. Let's just like seal this win up. And Wes was able to get that goal off of a cheap turnover from Mexico.
Yeah, and I mean, Ferrara, is it Ferrara or Ferreira? I always pronounce it wrong.
Ferreira.
So I would say that Ferreira is a little bit more, he's more like the Serge Aguero. He's not truly a striker. He's not truly a false 9. He's that guy that's kind of mobile, that kind of operates in and out of spaces that's hard to track. Pepi to me is more of that big body, that Erling Haaland, that
Right,
linear
he's a true striker. Ferreira
Yeah.
isn't really a striker, but Greg Berhalter plays in there because Greg Berhalter loves to be cute, and occasionally it works out for him, and this is one of those times it does.
Occasionally he's being generous.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, like Pepe is he's linear. He gets on the end of balls. He's going to win the hold up play.
Right.
Ferreira is going to be a much more, it's quicker 1-2, more movement around him.
Right.
And like you're saying, that 1-2 is a good example of it. It's get the ball, get it in, out, get it back to people, get it where defender is in position. Then once the person receives it back, they're out of position. So, I mean, I think in Mexico, I think Berhalter made some very smart subs. His timing was right, and he had a very good feeling for the pressure. And, I don't know if Berhalter's a little overconfident at this point that he's 3-0 versus Mexico. And, he's just
this
saying,
year,
okay,
3 wins. Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, let's go. Other things about it, this is the first time, you're looking at a game where usually you're like, ooh, that one person did not do well for the U.S. I can't really think of someone that I would say really didn't do bad. Yedlin didn't have a great game, but he did some things that were coming back, like preventing that goal that was a redeeming quality about him. I mean, Miles Robinson, that sucks with that second red card. Or the second yellow that was a red.
Yep, we can talk about that right now if we want to, because that's the next thing that happens in the game is we're trying to,
you're watching the game where they show the replay where it's like, CONCACAF, how do you not have VAR? This
wasn't VAR-able. That's the problem. It was a second yellow card. It's not a yellow card. A second yellow card is not reviewable by VAR. A red card is. But a second yellow card is not.
I thought that since it was the second to the yellow, since it was still considered a red card, that it would be reviewable due to an obvious error.
No.
Well,
direct red cards are. But this would not have been reviewed because it technically was a foul. You technically can give a yellow card here. That's the thing. This is a judgment that is the referee judged that this was a yellow card. I think it is harsh to give this yellow card considering everything that the referee gave to allowed Mexico to do throughout the entire game. They only got 2 yellow cards this game, and that's bullshit. That's absolute bullshit because they were antagonizing little pricks the entire game, and they literally gouged someone's eye out and only got a yellow card. And the entire game, they were literally riding Yunus Musa, doing the exact same thing that Miles Robinson did. The only difference is Yunus Musa's a more full grown ass man than these little Mexico shits and didn't just fall down. Sorry, I'm real salty about this because this is the problem is Yunus Musa wasn't saying, oh, I got touched, let me fall down. Although there was one time at the top of the box where he absolutely should have got a yellow card or got a foul called, and it should have been a yellow. The referee just waved away, probably because not going to go there. But this referee poorly handled the way he issued yellow cards. And the fact that Miles Robinson got a yellow card for two yellow cards on 2 fouls when there were multiple fouls throughout the rest of the game that didn't get yellow cards and other incidents throughout the game that also didn't get yellow cards or didn't get a red card they deserved is ludicrous.
Yeah, and that was going to be my point. It was also when you're looking at the replay and you could tell that it clearly wasn't a foul and how that none of the linesmen or anything, where the player clearly put his leg into Robinson's legs with the intent to trip him, where it's the player with the ball was making no intent to carry the ball. His only intent was to literally try and draw a foul.
It was literally he was just trying to draw a foul there.
It's a dirty
and Miles
play.
did the stupid thing of putting his arm on his shoulder, putting his hand on his shoulder, and it looked like he pulled him down. It is crap. It was absolute crap, considering that Mexico committed more fouls than we did, but somehow didn't get as many cautions as we did. It's just so inconsistent.
I mean, I know you and I joke about this, that like when you see CONCACAF, you see this highlights of the things in Europe that it's like, oh, this only got a yellow card, where it's like, oh yeah, it's against the US guy. I mean, that might be a foul. But I mean, it's when we joke about that, but then like you start seeing games like this where you start really saying, okay, is there really a bias against the US to a point? Because I mean, like I don't want to go outright and say it that there are referees that don't want us to win, but at some point statistics start pointing to that and start saying, yeah, okay, there is something fishy going on here.
I think there are referees who are not up for the occasion. And I think this is one of them. He wasn't quite as bad as the referee we had in the Jamaica match who just chose not to give red cards for things that should have been red cards. They were clear dog show offenses. This is just poorly managed and poorly, and it wasn't. Again, watching that game and going, okay, Mexico got 2 yellow cards. We got a total of 4, and one of those ended up in a red card. And 2 of ours were for fouls, and the other for Mexico were not because of fouls called on the field, right? One was for trying to gouge someone's eye out, and the other one's for a foul. It's inconsistent that you would do that. But the rest of the match, whatever, it was fine. I mean, I have issues with it, but I'm not going to let that color the fact that we beat Mexico 2-0. And I got to watch some Mexican guys behind me when we put in that second goal just look like their dog had just been murdered in front of them. It was fantastic. I hope that they never have a Monday where they stub their toe or that they run out of coffee on a Thursday morning, or I just wish them all the bad luck in the world because they were annoying, and the fact that they were there in the supporter section for the United States still just annoys the crap out of me. But they lost 2-0, and it was out? I don't want to get into it. But you know what? Good for them for making the trip to Cincinnati, and good for them going home losers because they deserved it. Because Mexico, I have 0 good positive things say about you, your Mexican Football Federation. So
I was going to say it's the federation. It's not the
the country's fine. Whatever. Yeah, the federation though, I would rather them not be allowed to do things because they clearly show that they have 0 respect for humans. Period. Let's just put it that way. Not as bad as Qatari people though, because they clearly don't have respect for human life.
Yeah, I mean, Mexico is just a step above Qatar, which is not a very big step.
Maybe a couple steps. I'll give them that.
Wow.
Regardless, I just like Mexico. I will not hide that on this podcast. It is great to beat them. It is wonderful to have that scoreline again. 2-0. We are 3-0 against them this year. All 3 of them in matches that mattered. Like, I think that's the big thing that matters to me anyway is, Mexican fans can talk all they want about, oh, it's the Nations League. What is that? It's not a real thing. Oh, that wasn't even our best team at the Gold Cup. It wasn't our best team either. This was when it mattered. And we beat you 2-0, and we outplayed you. Y'all, this was not the traditional U.S.-Mexico match. This wasn't the first 2-0, the second 2-0, where it's like, we got lucky. We beat y'all fair and square, straight up, dominated the match. Yeah. And we dictated how they had to play more than they dictated how we played.
Correct.
Just a few stats I want to run through because I think these are important. Yes, Mexico had more possession, 51-49. However,
that's a factor being up 2-0.
Right.
By the end of it, that's a sit back, 9 behind the ball, 10 behind the ball, and let him just pass.
But chances created 14-3, shots 18-8.
How many shots did Mexico have in the second half? Was it 1?
I don't have that in front of me. I'm so sorry.
Because, I mean, that would be a telling statistic to me. I meant to look that up before, and I've been trying to find it, and I can't seem to find it anywhere. But, like, I know that they had the 2 early, but I was going to say if they only had 3
I don't know if they had one until, like, maybe the very end. I do want to point out that this is kind of my point about the possession stat is yes, they had more possession, technically. We had 176 passes completed in their half. They only had 106 passes completed in our half. So when you look at possession, you go, again, if y'all have the ball in the back because Memo Ochoa is passing to his fullbacks, that's great. Y'all didn't create anything out of that. And we actually still had a decent amount of possession to create the chances we created. Also interesting that Mexico played so many long balls, 65 long balls. The U.S. is only 50. That's definitely not a traditional Mexico match, but that's mainly because we were pressing them so well that they really only had a couple of options, and occasionally they would be able to, make a few passes, but that's just a byproduct of our high press and our high line. Hold on. I got another stat that I want to throw out there. I got another stat. One more. Okay. Sorry. Shots inside the box. We had 12. So yes, we had 18 total shots, 12 of those coming inside the box. So this kind of brings me to my thesis that this is absolutely the best Berhalter team performance that we've had under Berhalter. Everything that we wanted that Berhalter wants, right? For the most part, dominating possession, dictating play, disorganizing defenses with the ball, getting good chances in the box, creating a lot of chances. We did all of those things in this match. This was absolutely the best that we have looked under Berhalter.
Without a doubt. I mean, I'm always skeptical of Berhalter just because of decisions he's made in the past. But I mean, this game, it looked different. It looked like a U.S. team that knew. It looked like a team that knew what their directive was, knew how they
Yes.
were going to do it, and then went and executed on that plan, which is
Right.
very rare for a U.S. men's national team to be able to follow through in all three of those points. A lot of times we've had a team that's been very well coached on what they should do, but then they don't actually execute on the field. I mean, you saw a team that you could clearly see that, I mean, even when things weren't going right, you could see the communication was there that says, hey, like Tyler Adams, I think it was barking at Musa at one point because Musa didn't track a runner. And the next time back, Musa's the first person tracking that runner, where it's always a good sign that, like, to me, it's like when you see a team, okay, in soccer and football, you're going to make a mistake. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. I mean, this is professional. You're international. You're gonna be under so much pressure that they're gonna find every weakness and you're gonna make a mistake. The good thing was those mistakes did not repeat. It was one mistake, move on, learn it, and if you made another mistake, it was something and learn from it again. And the thing was that you could see as the game grew on, you could kind of see the U.S. was starting to build into something, that there was a bigger picture here. And I mean, man, when you get Pulisic back and you get Rainier back, I mean, you got Musa, Aronson, and Gio basically fighting for that second 8 spot. I mean, this is going to be a fun team to watch. I mean, big nations, watch out. You're going to have some people that you're going to have to defend. And I mean, it's not just one. And then when you put the striker back, that's okay. If you have Weah and you have Pulisic on the outside, okay, Sartre can come back into play. I mean,
and hopefully also with Pepe, you have a much better cast around him as well. Not that he didn't have a bad cast; he had a bad cast this time. But like, it's just giving him more options. You do also PFOC you could possibly come in.
Pepe just
Pepe didn't have a great game against Mexico, but I still think he was effective, especially in the first half, connecting passes. He sprung Yedlin and Weah and Musa on that right side several times with a nice little combination play. Right. I just think that we got goals in the box and our striker didn't have to produce them. I think that's, again, a product of Berhalter's system.
Correct.
So
I mean, that's what's going to be interesting is you have a different striker. I mean, I can't remember pronounce his name. Is it Gianchino? How do you say Gianchino? Nicholas Gianchino. How do you say his last? I always butcher his last name, and I should be
Nico Gioacchini. I don't know if he's really a factor as much as we think he is playing in the second.
But I mean, okay. But I was going to say, having a big body like him and Jordan Pefok, having the two of them, where you can put them in there, that's a different.
As well as possible Daryl DK.
Right.
Which
that's
And we have striker depth. This is just my big take on the striker pool. We have depth. We don't have anyone who's at the top of it though. They're all kind of like they're all kind of kids in the swim class at the first swim class. They're like barely staying above water because they're just hoping to survive and they're not really having fun. So hopefully we find someone who's a little bit more acclimated to the water and can hold their own, because it's been a struggle for us at the striker position. That's for sure.
Well, I'm also just curious. I was bringing those guys back into it because I don't really feel like at the beginning when, you have Berhalter doing his tinkering where, you had some guys that didn't really get a fair shot because, you didn't have Weah on one side, Pulisic on the other.
Yeah.
And you didn't really have MMA behind them. Where,
right.
I mean, if you give those guys those complementary 5 pieces around them, then, I mean, that's a different thing for a striker. A striker is going to feel inherently more confident.
Right.
Okay, I can go chase more balls. I can go do this. I know I'm going to get better service. And they start – strikers are a funny breed, man. I mean, you score 1 goal, you can score 8.
And also Berhalter was kind of doing his whole we need to be super possessive. The striker needs to come deep and all this stuff. And now we've transitioned to a much more direct vertical style of play, which in theory should help strikers score more. Because Pepe did get 2 goals in the box against Jamaica. That again is the byproduct of what you want to see.
Correct.
Let's transition to this Jamaica game, because as much as we had the high of beating Mexico 2-0, the caveat for me was always, that's cool. Now you got to go to Jamaica and put in a similar performance. And quite honestly, they didn't. And it's quite frustrating that this team has yet to put in a good performance on the road. And that Honduras match was good in the second half. But outside of that, this team has looked really not great on the road. However, I want to go through some underlying stats once we go through this to say why I don't think that this is necessarily the biggest problem ever. I think that we just need to iron out some of the mentality kinks that we have when we go away in CONCACAF.
Yeah, I think right now, I know a lot of fans that I see on Twitter and, around just different media. It's always, oh, you're only supposed to get a draw on the road. Like, good job, you got a draw, a pat on the back. Where it's like, okay, listen, you people want to say that this is the U.S. team that is going to do something. It is the future. Well, then start holding them accountable to teams. Excuse me, like teams that are from
I
Europe.
think
Like
I
when
agree. We
Italy
need
goes,
to expect a little bit more than just a draw on the road, right? Like if you go to Mexico, Costa Rica, Canada, and you're like, hey, if we get a draw here, let's hopefully we get a draw.
yeah,
That's fine because I get those are top teams. But going to Jamaica and coming away with, and the first comment from Paul Ariella was, well, it's tough to play on the road. That's bullcrap. There were 5,000 fans in that stand, right? Jamaica's got to play on the
yeah.
same crappy field that y'all did, and you have more talent. Mikel Antonio is great, but no one else on that field for Jamaica was good. Sorry, they just weren't. The numbers back it up.
Hey, hey, I'm a Fulham fan. Don't you hate him?
Okay,
I'm a big
Leon
hit of
Bailey
Reed,
was
even though he missed that
serviceable.
3-yard sitter that should have sealed the game.
Yeah.
But
So
okay,
I do want to talk about that though.
yeah,
Like,
let's go back to bring everything back to what we were talking about here. Here's the deal that I see in my mind. That was kind of a trap game. That you come off a massive
oh
high,
yeah, it
and then
kind
you're
of was.
coming off against a team that you've already beaten in this cycle. That you know that you're better
Yeah.
than, and you go down there, and for whatever reason, yeah, you have a good. Actually, I shouldn't say you didn't have a good start. You had a great start. I mean, the first 10 minutes, the U.S. was just
Yeah.
flying around, where it looked like Mexico was about to get,
I
or
mean,
sorry,
we
Jamaica
Tim
looked like they
Tim
were going.
Weah 11th minute goal, and we were getting close even before that.
I was going to say that was the third shot on goal when Weah finally
Yep.
put it in, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, you're
We were
seeing,
doing things before even Weah just scored.
yeah, and it's like you're flying high, and then that goal comes in where, I mean, I don't know who you expect to stop that. That was a rocket.
That was a So that's kind of the issue that I have is Mikel Antonio. I feel like we hadn't played him yet, mainly because he hadn't started until that game. I
I thought he
think
started the
that
game before.
he played.
Did I thought he started? Oh, yeah, you're right. That's right. He came
Uh,
in. That's half.
yeah.
That's right.
So we didn't really know what to expect of Jamaica with him because, as I always say, never trust the Jamaicans because they're never what you think they're going to be. And this was an example of that, where
Yeah.
we thought they would be, and granted, they were still very disorganized defensively, and we still did a lot of good things offensively. We still had a very high number of passes completed in the final third and the attacking half. We had more chances created than Jamaica. We had more possession than Jamaica. And like these numbers, I know that they don't matter in comparing it to the result of a 1-1 draw, but overall they do matter because you want a team that is able to continually hold more possession than the other team, create chances, connect passes in the attacking half. Those are key stats to dictating how well your possession-based team is actually possessing the ball and creating good scoring opportunities. Now, I still think we have struggled to make good scoring opportunities, and I think we struggled with that against Jamaica, but they were there, and we created more opportunities to Jamaica. Maybe not better, but we did create more opportunities than Jamaica.
Yeah, and I mean, this was actually the first time I would say that draw was more on the players than it was Berhalter. In
Yeah,
the
it
past,
absolutely was. I agree.
you could clearly say that Berhalter caused some of the other draws or some of the other results
This was
because
on the players. We started
yeah,
well. What happened, guys?
well, and that's the thing is that like okay, where is your mentality? You had a 90-minute mentality. I mean, really a 120-minute mentality against Mexico, where you were ready to
Right.
go for however long stoppage time was.
We're
And
gonna
I mean,
run
you
and
could
run
tell
and
that they
run.
were. Yeah, and it was, but then you get into this Jamaica game, and it's like, okay, well, one bad thing happens, and then the snowball effect happens. Okay, then
Right.
another bad thing happens, and another bad thing
Yeah.
happens, and
It
then
was
you
the
can never
exact
right the
opposite of
ship.
what you said against Mexico, where like you made a mistake and you moved
Right,
on. This
which
was like we kept making the same mistakes. And it wasn't like I mean, Jamaica wasn't doing anything really to hurt us. I don't think defensively we were that bad. I really don't think we were that bad this game.
we weren't, but the problem is that you weren't good enough, and
Right.
that's the problem is
Right.
that you're having this roller coaster of, hey, here's the U.S. men's national team that like you're looking at how they're playing Mexico. Okay, yeah, that team probably could have gone on and played a big nation and could have hung with a big nation. Well, then you see him play Jamaica, and you're like, yeah, maybe that's why we're only 12th in the rankings right now because we really can't be consistent enough to push our way up.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like it's frustrating because I mean, you can totally see this team's potential, but for whatever reason, this team is like, we'll get their next game
Yeah.
when they're on the road, and I don't get why. And for the life of me, it's just ugh, it's infuriating.
It's really weird because it almost feels like a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy when we tell ourselves it's so hard to go on the road and play in CONCACAF. And the two, like that Panama game, that wasn't that bad of the atmosphere was not bad at all. There weren't that many fans. The field looked perfectly like acceptable, is the word I would use. And
That
again,
lineup just doomed that team before it ever came on the field, though. Against
right.
Panama.
Well, there's that, but I don't want to talk about that. I'm talking about the mentality of the team and why we seem to not play. Like, it's not like El Salvador was tough. Like, that was absolutely a tough away match because those guys, those fans in that stand, they had been waiting almost 12 years for a match like this.
Yes.
Honduras wasn't at that level, was still pretty raucous, but the last two away qualifiers that we've played haven't exactly been like the gates of hell that we're trying to storm. This isn't it's really disappointing that in front of a half full crowd, Estadio Romano Fernandez in Romel Dominguez, whatever, this national stadium in Panama, and then the national stadium Romel, I think it's Romel Dominguez. I'm gonna check myself there. And then in the national stadium there in Kingston, like these were not full stands. The crowd, I mean, like the crowd got into it for Jamaica after that goal, but like anyone would get into that goal that was scored. That like I was like, oh, like as a fan of the other team, you're even like, wow, that was a good goal. But like, it's not like they were impactful in the game in any sense. There were 5,000 people there.
No, and I mean
that's those were bad performances. So
it is, and I mean it's strange, and I mean I don't want to blame players, but there's only really 3 holdovers that really keep saying it's hard to win in CONCACAF, and it's the same 3 people that you and I always.
I think I think the media feeds into it. To be quite honest, there is a narrative it's hard to win, and the reality is, as I said after we lost to Panama, Greg Berhalter is the first coach, U.S. coach, to lose at Panama in World Cup qualifying.
Really?
Yeah. He was the first coach to lose at Panama in World Cup qualifying. Now, we've had other losses to Panama in a Gold Cup, thanks Jurgen Klinsmann, but we have not lost at Panama in qualifying. We've either got a win or most of the time got a draw. El Salvador has been up and down. Honduras is up and down. Usually it's really tough for us to find points there, but we can usually find at least one. So that's where I'm like, even if it's tough to, quote, win in CONCACAF, you still have the right mindset to go get a draw.
I mean,
like you still have to have the same resolute mindset to get a win, and like you still have to, like, if you go in there, like we played a team, Parkview, growing up. Like Parkview High School was at the class of Georgia high schools when I was growing up, and we would go out there. Oh yeah, we're gonna try to give them we knew we were gonna lose, right? And as a goalkeeper, it sucked because you're giving up like a billion shots, and you're like, I made 10 saves, I also conceded 7 goals. But you felt like you had a good night.
A good game that time, Bart.
Right? It was like, I had a pretty good game, except for the fact that 7 goals went by me. But it was like you just knew that you just knew they were good. Why do we have a mindset of like, oh, it's tough? Like, why do we have the mindset of like, oh, we're gonna get our asses handed to us by Parkview? I don't understand why we keep playing into this. Oh, it's tough to play on the road in CONCACAF. Yeah, you know what? It's clearly very tough to play here in the United States in CONCACAF. Okay, like Canada got a point off of us because of the worst defending we've seen from a U.S. defender since Jeff Cameron or Omar Gonzalez, rather.
Wow. Bart's pulling up the.
Sorry, John Brooks. I don't mean to paint you in that light, but like, it's just like one moment of not doing well, and they got a goal.
But I mean, here's what I don't understand is that, listen, if you can have the mentality to go out and beat Mexico in a 2-0, how can you not have the same mentality to come out and play a Jamaica team that is not at full strength? Because England still will not allow them because of red zone countries.
Yeah, I mean, like you got some, but they weren't able. Yeah, like they just now are getting their players that they would want. So like again, you get Mikel Antonio starting for the first time. Like I know he's good. The rest of the team was not.
I mean, that's what I don't understand is that, like, I mean, I'm trying to think. If you went through Jamaica's roster, you have what? 1 Fulham player, maybe actually 2 Fulham players if you count Michael Hector if he's in the 18.
Sure.
But outside of that, I mean, is anybody else playing in a top 5 league?
I mean, yeah, Mikel Antonio, we said he's playing for West Ham.
Besides Antonio,
I think, oh crap, they have a guy at Bayern, and I cannot remember his name right now, but I don't know if he's playing for them.
I thought he was on loan. But that's my
point is, the talent is not even, like, even if you want to talk about all these quote guys they're going to bring in, they don't number what we have, and they're not the level of quality that we have, because I mean we have Anthony Robinson playing on Fulham as well, so it's like they're equitable.
Right.
I mean, I don't think that's unfair to say that they're at least on the same level. So it blows my mind that we continue to go away to CONCACAF and just can't seem to get it.
I mean, I want to say something eloquent. I want to say something smart about it. But I mean, the annoying thing is there really is anything. There is not anything to say other than either the manager hasn't set the players up properly, or the players think it is okay to just draw on the road. And now, I don't know if maybe that's
I will say, like, it's okay to draw on the road. And I've said this from the beginning. If you play to win, if you're playing good soccer and you're trying to win the game and you happen to draw, that happens. That like, and if that, like, that was the frustrating part about the Panama game, is like, it was clear that we weren't even trying to win the game. Right.
Well, and I mean, and that's what annoys me, is that, like, even with Jamaica, is once that goal went in, it was all of a sudden, it was just, okay, we're not playing to win. Let's just get out of here with a draw. And it's almost
and I will credit Berhalter a little bit. Maybe you can say that he should have inspired the troops, but like, I don't know what their problem was. I think he recognized it fairly well, and I think that's why we saw some very defensive second half subs. I think that's why Acosta came in instead of, like, I would have liked Ferreira in an attacking mid again, but like Acosta coming in for Musa, that was definitely a y'all, let's get out of here. Now it almost worked. It didn't work for us because we did concede a ball went in the back of our net.
That was a soft.
It was a soft foul. It would not have gone to VAR in the sense that it's not a clear and obvious error. My explanation, and this is the way I can explain it from a referee standpoint, is I think the entire match you saw Jamaica getting very handsy and physical in the box on set pieces.
Right.
And oftentimes you don't really call it if nothing comes of it. Does that make sense? Like, oh yeah, they kind of got grabby, but like they didn't get a head on it, or like it went out for a goal kick, or it's nothing. That one, he scored, and his arms were above. I think they were above. At least one was above Zimmerman's shoulder. One was definitely around him. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad. I think it's a soft call. I've seen that where defenders do that and don't get called, but I've also seen that a lot where attackers do that, and you're like, nope, you can't do that. That's an illegal way to win a ball and try to score a goal.
Right.
I think that's the operative. Like, he scored a goal by doing that.
Yeah, and I mean, I would.
You don't want to. Yeah.
Yeah. He gave himself an advantage by where he placed his hand. It's kind of akin to what Miles Robinson did, where Miles Robinson put himself in a bad spot because where his hand was placed. The same thing. It's like, you can tell. It's like, you've always told me this, that like with a 50-50 header, when somebody jumps over someone, it's not a foul if the player doesn't make an action to get to the ball. Where you could tell that Zimmerman was loading up to jump when the hand went on his shoulder.
Exactly.
And I think right there, like you're saying, okay, that prevented Zimmerman from being able to jump up and win that ball. Now, I am going to be honest and say I don't think Zimmerman timed his jump properly. I think that ball would have gotten.
He did get beat. Yeah.
So, but thankfully it worked out.
We got a call that went in our favor. Luckily, because otherwise we would have lost. I still think the frustrating part is we started so well, and we probably should have had a second goal before they even scored their first. Sure. Probably should have had a goal.
We should have been up 2-0 after Weah's goal.
We could have, and I think again, just the way that we responded to that goal was so disheartening, because it was a great goal. Move on.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like you're gonna. I mean, if somebody hits a ball like that, it's a wonder strike. That's when you just give them a clap and say, "Well done, buddy."
Right.
And then go back to what you're doing. I mean, at that point, there was no way that Jamaica team, unless we step back the way that we did, was going to become the aggressor in that game. And then, ironically, they became the aggressor because we stepped off the gas, and it let them kind of get their footing a little bit. So,
well, and that was the issue, is that Jamaica wanted to just be the bullies on that day, which fine. Okay, do that. We did not find it in our heads to be cool, calm, and collected outside of that. And we let ourselves get down.
Yep. That's a very good description of that.
So again, like I said, I wanted to go through some stats because I think that they're important to kind of tell the story or give color to the story. I don't think stats tell the whole story, but they add some context. So again, US 62% possession to Jamaica's 38. We had 9 shots to their 6, 7 chances created to their 4. They did have one big chance, which I think was that Leon Bailey miss.
Yep.
We
And
had
Deckard overread inside of the
that
6-yard
one,
box as
yeah,
well.
that one. Sorry, that chance.
Boy needs
326 accurate passes for a 76% passage completing rate. Now, that is lower than we would like. And I think that is, again, the reason why we did not end up keeping the ball in a dangerous possession or positions more, and why we gave them a lot of chances. But still a decently high passing percentage. And as we looked at in the Mexico game, all this possession, we still had 154 passes completed in their half. That's pretty darn good. That's still pretty
It is,
good.
but it feels kind of misleading by the way the game went, though.
I don't have the number of how many were in the attacking third or in the box, and that's the difference, right? So, we had chances. We didn't, because we had 7 shots inside the box. Now, a lot of this was in the very opening of the game. So that kind of stuff is, again, where you go, you can't just rely on one goal. You have to try to get more. But my point to all this is it wasn't a cataclysmic performance the way that the Panama match was. But it was all the little things just didn't. It was good, and then it was really bad, or it was really bad before. Like it was so inconsistent.
Yeah, and I mean and it's interesting, like hearing those stats back because, like, I mean, I'm like going through the game in my mind, and it's like, it's like I felt like we had more shots, like, but then you hear the stats, and you're like, yeah, the second half we really just kind of passed the ball around.
I think that was the issue. It's the second half we just didn't do a whole lot. The first half we did a lot. The second half it was really bad from a chance creation and keeping the ball, especially in the final third. It was really bad.
I mean, I just want to know what does it take to get 2 consecutive 45s
right.
on the road? Like, I mean, like
right.
at this point, like seriously, what does it take? I mean, do you just threaten somebody not getting called back again? I mean, like, what is up? Like, I don't get that. Like, as a player, to me, that would be embarrassing. That you go win 2-0 against Mexico, and then you turn around and you lay an egg against Jamaica.
Yeah.
Like,
and again, it wasn't that we drew. This is my kind of point that I do want to talk about with this game is results are fine. Judging people by results are fine, right? Because at the end of the day, what matters is qualifying for Qatar, right? And if you play like crap, but you get enough points to qualify directly, job done. However, that's not the stated goal of Greg Berhalter, right? He has always said that he wants to create a different type of style of play for the United States, create a different type of player, these things. So this is where the substance also matters. So performance versus result, we have to have this discussion because both the performance and the result were very good against Mexico. They were very good against Jamaica and Costa Rica. But both the result and the performance, more than anything, were very bad against both Jamaica and Panama in the away matches, right? So that is where we do have to look at these things is the performance does matter. And so that performance against Jamaica, I just said it wasn't as bad as I think we made it out to be, but it was very clear that after a certain point, we didn't believe we could win and our performance very much dipped.
Yeah, and I mean, I appreciate the fact that you brought up the whole Berhalter thing, saying that, hey, we want to change how everyone views the U.S. as a footballing nation. And I mean, if you're going to do
great,
that,
I'm okay with this, right? Like,
okay, but if you're going to do that, go out and win on the road. Like, flat out, go out and win on the road. Win games on the road. Don't just say that you're going to do something different. Do it. Like,
and that's something that, like, I'll go back to this is what bothered me about Bruce Arena in the 2018 qualifying campaign was because we had games at Panama. Well, the 2018 campaign.
I know, yeah. I'm just
but we had games at Panama and Honduras that we could have won. If we win one of those games, we've qualified, right? And that makes up for losing at home to Costa Rica.
And this is what I'm saying that always makes me nervous about what happens is when you have a situation where you're on the road and you have a chance to win, you essentially just gave a team 2 points that they did not have, even if it doesn't show it even if he doesn't show it in the table.
Right.
But the fact that, even if they don't actually win the game, the fact that you dropped 2 points and you gave them a point, that is a significant change to a team. And
Yep.
it's generally the team that is on the bottom that gets the bigger swing and goes
Well,
on and wins and does something the next match that puts more pressure on the team above the table.
So, for example, granted, after they beat us, they went and lost to Canada 4-1. But I think that win that they had against us, Panama did not play well. But you look at how they won 2 matches this window. One of those was on the road, one of those at home, right? They came from behind against Honduras to win 3-2. They were down 2-0 in the second half.
Correct.
We can do that. And we did it against Honduras to an extent, right? We came from behind. Granted, we put ourselves in a hole, but like, where is the belief that we can win on the road? That's what I want to see from this team going forward.
Yeah, and I mean, now here's a good question: is does Berhalter inspire the team to think that they can do that, or does this team really truly just say, "Hey, if we score first and we hang on, great, it's all great, but we still will win"? Or are they saying we're just trying to do whatever we have to get out with a point or more?
So that's where I want to know is what is Berhalter telling these guys, and how is he preparing for them to do battle on the road in CONCACAF and win? Because we haven't seen it. We got to win in Honduras because of a great second half. That's the only good half we played on the road out of.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're Berhalter, how are you not going absolute full rah-rah mode on these dudes after beating Mexico 2-0, where you could turn around and say, play like your pants are on fire, go nuts for 45 minutes and see if Jamaica can handle it.
Right.
Like, how do you not take that position and say, let's just go? Like, I'm not.
That may have been what he said in the first half, because we came out pretty well in that first half and then gave up a
but still,
wonder goal.
It's keep. Yeah, I mean, it's just keep.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess that could be deflating, but I mean, at the same time, it's like you're the past. What it would have been. The U.S. have been struggling until this window to score in the run of play, and then suddenly you get 3 goals in the run of play like that. Like, no problem. Just keep going, keep playing, keep doing it. Like, if you're Berhalter, it's just pedal to the metal, get going. Like, you had the opportunity to really just to put some distance between you and the rest of the pack there.
Right. And again, that was the sad reality of all this, is that we had a chance with the win in Jamaica to really set ourselves apart, because even had Canada beaten Mexico, which they did, or had Mexico won in Canada, which they didn't, we would have still been atop of the table.
I think Canada beating Mexico. Yeah, I think Canada. So here's the deal: with the assumption that you had beaten Jamaica, and I was assuming that Canada,
I figured Canada would at least get a point of not beating Mexico. Yeah,
because Mexico.
Based on what we saw against, yeah, exactly. We would have still been on top if had we beaten Jamaica, right?
So, but then here's the deal: if you had beaten Jamaica, then you go down. If you beat Canada the next game and you beat Panama, think about the chasm right now. That would mean that you would be at. You'd be at 17, 20. You'd be at 23 points, and Panama is at max at 17.
Well, if you had just drawn Panama on the road, right, you're looking at Panama now at 12 points, and you're at 16. That's right. I know 4 points doesn't sound like a lot, but that is a very comfortable distance, meaning that one window is unlikely to change your actual qualifying position. Now we're only 2 points. We're only a point ahead of Panama. If we don't get a full 7, if not 9 next window, and Panama does good things the way they did this window, that's problematic. Now, granted, Panama played the 2 weakest teams in the octagon this window. They played El Salvador and Honduras. They do have much tougher matches coming up. But let's run through all of the matches that happened in this window, because I do think that since we only had 2, we had time to actually take stock of the whole thing. We've talked about Panama a lot. Again, they went on the road, beat Honduras 3-2 after falling behind 2-0. El Salvador and Jamaica tied 1-1 in El Salvador. Canada beat Costa Rica at home 1-0. U.S. obviously 2-0 over Jamaica. And then we had a 1-1 draw with Jamaica. Then Panama, again, coming from behind, this time at home. They were down 1-0 to El Salvador, came back to win 2-1. Costa Rica beats Honduras in Costa Rica 2-1, and Canada beats Mexico 2-1 in Canada. So again, U.S. is a point from being top of the table, also a point from not even being in a qualifying position, or a point from 4th. So that is why it's tense, and it's more tense because Canada got all 6 points. Panama got all 6 points. We only got 4. And though 4 is fine, it makes it for a much stressful look at the table right now.
I mean, all right, four is not fine.
Four is
acceptable
the
per
minimum,
circumstances.
right? That's what I'm saying. By fine, I mean that's the minimum. Like if you do that, you're like, okay, whatever, moving on, right? And so that's something that's where I stand, right? If you get the draw and a point and a whatever, if you do that, fine.
In my opinion, this was the window to break things open.
I agree.
That
Jamaica's not a good soccer team.
Let's do some math here. If you could take all 6 points here and you took all 9 points, I know it's a long shot next time because you have to go up to Canada and get a win at Canada. But let's say you did that. You're done. You're in.
Pretty much, which is the thing that we do need to make sure of because we don't want to be playing at Costa Rica on the final match day to get a spot to qualify, right? That's
the other thing is this is like, if you've already qualified, you don't have to call in Pulisic every time. You don't have to call in Wade.
Right.
You don't have to call in everyone. Now, granted, you are going to probably call them in.
I mean,
the pressure.
You're not as dependent on them, right?
You can actually develop people, and you can put people into the pressure cooker and figure out, okay, all those fringe guys that we go into the World Cup. If you get in that situation where you need someone to turn up and play, okay, you know who could turn up and play now.
Right. And that would be the ideal. But, I think that's the thing is you're never going to expect you can't expect the ideal from CONCACAF because you're never going to get it in one way, shape, or form.
No.
Some of that is your own doing. We have 1 loss, which is the second fewest at the table. Canada with 0 and us with only 1. So, again, it's not like we're dropping points massively, but you see where 2 little results like tying Canada at home and a loss at Panama, that's what's separating you right now. Because if you had beaten Canada, which you should have, you should have beaten Canada. You're looking at you're now at 17 points. Canada's at 15. Had you tied Panama, they're at again 12 points, and you possibly have 18 points. And those are little things, I don't think it's fair to expect this team to never lose. But
I'm not
losing at Panama is the part where I'm mad about. Putting out the performance, putting out that lineup against Panama is problematic. That's the thing about the Jamaica game where I think Berhalter put this team in a position to do well and succeed in Jamaica, and they didn't. That's frustrating. We started well. We did not finish well. We played about 15 minutes of good soccer, maybe 20 minutes of good soccer, and then the rest of it was hectic. So we can't have that.
And when you're looking at this table, I mean, okay, Canada draw on the road, that's fair. Mexico draw on the road, that's fair. Costa Rica draw on the road, that's fair because Costa Rica's had our number. After you get outside of that, Panama, you should be gunning for a win. Okay, you settle for a draw. Jamaica, El Salvador, and Honduras, same things.
Right.
It's like we can sit here and we can talk about points, things we've dropped here, stuff that we haven't done right there. But the thing is, what we're saying in what I'm hearing you say at the same time is that this team has the ability to do better than just hope for a point. But for whatever reason, we
hope for a point, because that's what it sounds like sometimes when people talk about CONCACAF. It's like, oh, you just got to hope you get a draw. No, you play to win. And if you win, great. If you draw, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Because drawing on the road is great because it definitely denies the other team of 2 points, right? Again, that's what we're seeing Canada did to us. And Canada has yet to win on the road, but they haven't lost on the road. So, they have 3 draws on the road. That's pretty darn good.
Hey, if they're drawing on the road, they're taking points away from somebody else.
That's exactly it. They took points away from us. They took points away from Mexico. They took points at Jamaica. That's the other thing. Canada drew at Jamaica. So, come on, y'all. Any last thoughts about this window as a whole?
Weah is definitely, in my mind, he's cemented that starting right wing.
Mm-hmm.
I think he found that Berhalter has settled into a starting 11 that's very reasonable for our program, and I think it's got a lot of good progress and a lot of good ability going forward. The only thing I was hoping to see that we didn't get to see was Scally, to see what his ability level was. But the good thing is this: you didn't have Dest and things didn't implode. You had a red card that popped up and things didn't implode. So you have some stability in it, and I think overall, as much as we've been griping about things that we've done wrong, things we haven't done great, the potential and the future does look bright, and we control our destiny, which is not something the U.S. has been able to say in a long time. That if we take care of our business, we're fine. So just get out there, get it done, and move on.
So we have 6 matches remaining. We have 3 at home, 3 on the road, right? So that if you go by the formula that everyone says that we should, that should be 9 points plus 3 points. That's what, 12 points?
Correct.
So you're looking at 27 points, which in theory should be good.
27 should be a minimum for third place based on
a lot of
expected points.
A lot of expected points and a lot of metrics. You'd like to pick up a win on the road somewhere. It could be at Mexico. It could be at Canada. That would be ideal. It could be at Costa Rica. I'd like to not have to do that.
If you
beat Canada, you beat Mexico. Hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is beat Canada, beat Panama, draw Mexico. If those results hold, then there's no reason why the U.S. wouldn't qualify, because at that point you've frozen out the only people that can really bump you down.
Right. So I think that's the plan. Though, the plan of win at home, draw on the road is still valid. It is still a path to qualification. However, I think we expect this team to still perform better on the road. And if you don't show up ready to win at Canada, they're going to blitz you, because that team has so much belief right now. And that is scary. They are a team that believes
a lot of speed to go with that belief.
Yeah. And they play a game that works for them. So, Andrew, thanks for joining me. Where can we follow you on Twitter?
It is Ada Vooch. I need to get some other, social media things for people to follow.
Twitter's
I appreciate you having me back on, man. It's always fun to talk about this. So,
it's very fun. I will say that, I appreciate having a different perspective to talk to. We're going to try to have like a little roundtable discussion in December, probably before the friendly in December, to take a real evaluation of where we have gone through these first 8 matches of the Octagon, and fill content time, honestly. Don't forget, we have the U.S. women playing a pair of friendlies against Australia coming up. We play Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, at 11 p.m. and then Tuesday, the 30th at 4 a.m. So actually really excited about this roster. There's some pretty cool new faces that have been brought in. Great goalkeeping talent. Sad that Trinity Rodman is not a part of this, but the rest of the pool has been brought in is really good. Ashley Hatch is one to watch. She could be the next heir apparent of the starting striker for the United States national team. So be on the lookout for that. Other than that, like I said, we'll be back in December, and then we'll be back in January as we talk about the U.S. restarting World Cup qualifying and 3 very pivotal matches in the January-February window. Again, thanks everyone for listening. You can follow the show at Soccer for Us Pod. I appreciate you, Andrew, for joining me. I'm Bart. I'm out.